You will not believe the story I have for you. It all started when this HOA Karen pointed a gun at my wife because we wouldn't pay her ridiculous fines. Just a total meltdown. But man, she picked the wrong people to mess with. Turns out my wife isn't just a gardener. She's a combat specialist, and she was carrying that day. It was a movie scene in our front yard. The story of how we dismantled her little kingdom is absolutely insane. You have to hear this. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, because you are not going to want to miss a second of this crazy ride. Alright, so let me take you back. Not that far, just a few years. Let's call it the year of the deed. This was when my wife, Alex, and I finally bought our dream house. I'm Mark, 41. I work in data analysis, so my brain is all spreadsheets and patterns. My wife, Alex, she's 38, and if you met her, you'd think she's a botanist or a yoga instructor. She has this serene, calm energy about her, and she can make anything grow. She told me she was a private security consultant for international firms before we settled down. I knew that meant she'd seen some stuff, but man, I had no idea of the full extent. We were just excited to have a yard, a 2-car garage, and a bit of peace. The neighborhood seemed perfect. Manicured lawns, kids riding bikes, the whole 9 yards. It had an HOA, but the rules seemed standard. No commercial vehicles. Keep the lawn tidy, don't paint your house neon pink. We figured, easy enough, we're quiet people. The house was a bit of a fixer-upper, but the bones were good. We signed the papers, got the keys, and toasted with cheap champagne on the living room floor. Life was good. For the first year or so, it was. We kept to ourselves, did some painting, and Alex started mapping out the garden she'd always wanted. Our first real introduction to the neighborhood's, let's call her guardian of good taste, was about a month in. We met Brenda, the HOA president. She was 53, with that perfectly coiffed, helmet-like hair that just screams. I time my errands to critique the mailman. She didn't walk, dude. She presided over the sidewalk. She came over with a welcome basket that felt more like an inspection kit. It had a copy of the HOA bylaws with certain sections highlighted in a passive-aggressive yellow. Just so you're aware, she'd said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, we're very proud of our community standards here. I remember looking at Alex after she left, and we both just had this look on our face like, okay, so she's that kind of neighbor. We didn't think much of it. Every neighborhood has one, right? The self-appointed hall monitor. We just figured we'd smile, nod, and keep our grass at the regulation 2.5 inches. It seemed like a small price to pay for what was otherwise a paradise. We had a neighbor, an older guy named Tom, who once caught me by the fence while I was weeding. He was a nice guy, retired mechanic. He looked over at Brenda's house, then back at me, and just said, watch your 6 with that one. She collects violations like they're commemorative spoons. I laughed it off. Man, I wish I'd taken him more seriously. That was our warning, and like a couple of dummies, we just waved it away. We were in our bliss phase. The second year, we'll call it the year of the permit, is when things started to shift. We decided to build a small deck off the back of the house. Nothing crazy, just a place to put a grill and a couple of chairs. Being the meticulous guy I am, I did everything by the book. I spent weeks drawing up plans. I went down to the city, filed all the paperwork, and got every single permit required. I even submitted the plans to the HOA's Architectural Review Committee, as required by the highlighted section in Brenda's welcome packet. We got a letter back a few weeks later, approved, signed by Brenda herself. We were golden. So we hired a contractor, and the work began. That's when the little white envelopes started appearing, tucked under our door handle. The first one was for construction debris visible from the street. It was a stack of lumber that had been delivered that morning, 7:14 a.m., and was scheduled to be moved to the backyard by noon. The fine was $50. I thought it was a mistake. I called Brenda. Oh no, Mark, she said in that syrupy, sweet, venomous tone she had. The rules are very clear. All materials must be stored out of sight. I explained they'd be gone in a few hours. Well, she chirped, the violation was observed at 8:34 a.m. The fine stands. Click. I was annoyed, but I figured, whatever, $50. We'll just be more careful. But then it kept happening. A fine for unauthorized noise during construction, even though we were well within the city's allowed hours. A fine because the contractor's truck was parked on the street for 20 minutes while they unloaded. A fine for a lawn disturbance where the workers had walked. It was unbelievable. Each fine was $50 or $100. It felt less like rule enforcement and more like a shakedown. It was a constant stream of little aggressions, a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Alex was getting frustrated. "This is insane, Mark," she'd say, holding a new violation notice. "She's just targeting us." And I knew she was right. I started a spreadsheet. It's what I do. I logged every fine, the date, the time, the alleged violation, and a photo of the evidence. I started cross-referencing them with the bylaws. And what do you know? A lot of her violations were based on her own creative interpretation of incredibly vague language. The foundation of our little war was being laid, and I was documenting every single brick. The year of the permit bled into the year of the ticket, and that's when Brenda really escalated her holy crusade against us. The deck was finished, it was beautiful, and it was 100% approved and permitted. You'd think that would be the end of it. Dude, it was just the beginning. It was like our beautiful, legally built deck was a personal insult to her. The tickets became a weekly, sometimes daily, occurrence. On a Tuesday, 10:57 a.m., we got a ticket because Alex had put up a string of solar-powered fairy lights on the deck railing. Unapproved exterior modification, $100. We took them down. On a Friday, another ticket. This time for the color of the stain we used on the deck. The form said non-conforming color palette. I nearly lost it. I marched right over to my file cabinet, pulled out the signed approval form from her own committee, which listed the exact brand and color of the stain, and scanned it. I attached it to an email and sent it to the entire HOA board, politely asking for the fine to be rescinded. I got a one-sentence reply from Brenda's email address. "The committee has reconsidered its initial approval. The fine stands." Man, the sheer audacity. She was just making it up as she went along. There was no reconsideration meeting. There was no vote. There was just Queen Brenda, sitting in her castle, printing fines from her little beige printer. We started talking to other neighbors, quietly at first. Turns out, we weren't alone. Tom, the guy who warned me, was getting fined because his garden hose wasn't coiled in a perfectly circular fashion. A young couple down the street got a violation for their kid's bright pink tricycle being left on their own driveway for less than an hour. She was running a racket. It was a power trip fueled by $50 fines. But most people just paid them. It was easier. "We don't want the trouble," one lady told me. "She'd just find something else." They were intimidated. And I get it, but that just wasn't me. It wasn't Alex either. This was our home. We weren't going to be bullied out of it. We decided to go to the next HOA meeting. I came prepared. I had my binder. Oh yeah, there was a binder. It was a thing of beauty. 3 inches thick, tabbed and organized, with copies of the bylaws, our permits, every ticket. My photos with timestamps and a printout of my glorious spreadsheet. I felt like a suburban warrior heading into battle. The meeting was in the community clubhouse. It was exactly as sad as you'd imagine. Fluorescent lighting, stale coffee, and about 8 people, including the board, who were basically Brenda's loyal but terrified cabinet. Her husband, Gary, was the treasurer. He was this gray, slump-shouldered man who looked like he'd been defeated by life somewhere around 1998. He just nodded whenever Brenda spoke. When the floor opened for homeowner concerns, I stood up, binder in hand. I calmly and methodically went through the last 6 months of harassment. I presented my evidence, I quoted the bylaws back to them, and I showed the approved form she had personally signed. I wasn't angry. I was factual. I laid out the case like I was presenting a data report at work. When I finished, there was a dead silence. Then Brenda started talking. "Well," she began with a condescending little chuckle, "it's a shame you feel that way, Mark, but the rules are for everyone. Perhaps if you spent less time making spreadsheets and more time complying, we wouldn't have this issue." Wow. Just wow. The gaslighting was incredible. She didn't address a single point I made. She just dismissed me, patted me on the head like a child. Her board members just sat there, staring at their hands. Gary just nodded. It was a complete sham. They voted in a 4-to-1 decision. One board member, a sweet old lady named Carol, actually looked apologetic to uphold all of our fines. We left that meeting feeling so defeated. Alex was quiet on the walk home. It was the first time I saw the stress of it really get to her. "It's not about the money, is it?" she said softly. "No," I replied. "It's about her trying to control us." That night, I was up late, 11:42 p.m., staring at the ceiling. The binder had failed. The facts had failed. Brenda didn't care about rules or facts. She cared about power. And I realized this was going to get a lot worse before it got better. I had been playing chess, but she was just kicking the board over. It was time for a new strategy. That HOA meeting was a turning point. We were officially at war. The following month, the big one arrived. Let's call it the year of the lien. Brenda, having successfully shut us down in her kangaroo court, went for the kill. We received a certified letter. Inside was an itemized bill for every single fine, late fees she'd invented, and a new, massive charge for legal assessment. The total was just over $5,000. The letter stated that if we didn't pay in full within 30 days, the HOA would be placing a lien on our house. A lien. That was it. That was the line. Dude, all the air went out of the room. This wasn't about a $50 ticket for a welcome mat anymore. This was a direct threat to our home, our biggest investment, our future. I looked at Alex, and I saw a shift in her eyes. The quiet frustration was gone, replaced by something I hadn't seen before, a cold, hard fire. "Okay," she said, her voice completely level. "She wants a war. She's going to get a war." For me, that meant diving even deeper into the paperwork. I spent every night digging into the county's public records. I researched state laws governing HOAs. I was looking for a chink in her armor, a mistake, anything. It was exhausting. I was angry, I was stressed, and I felt this burning sense of injustice. Our dream home was starting to feel like a prison. The saddest part for me was seeing what it was doing to Alex. She had poured her heart into this place. Her garden was her sanctuary. She'd get up early every morning, 6:30 a.m., with her coffee and just be out there, tending to her plants. But now, she couldn't even do that without feeling like she was being watched. She knew Brenda's kitchen window looked right out onto our backyard. She started keeping the blinds drawn. She stopped working in the garden as much. The place that was supposed to bring her joy was now a source of anxiety. This woman, this petty tyrant with her clipboard and her power trip, was stealing my wife's peace. That, more than any fine or lien, is what truly made it personal. I watched my vibrant, happy wife become quieter, more withdrawn. The serene energy that I loved so much was being chipped away, replaced by a constant simmering tension. It was heartbreaking. One evening, she was just staring out the window into the dark. She said, "I've been in hostile territory all over the world. I've dealt with warlords and cartels, and I have never felt as unsafe as I do in my own backyard." That hit me like a ton of bricks. That was the moment my sadness turned into pure, cold rage. The fight wasn't just about our house anymore. It was about getting my wife's sanctuary back. My research finally paid off. It was a Thursday night. I was deep into the county property records database, fueled by caffeine and spite. I was cross-referencing HOA and corporation documents with meeting minutes that, by law, had to be publicly available if requested. And then I found it. The smoking gun. Back when the HOA was formed, the original bylaws had a specific clause about capital improvements and special assessments. Any major structural rule change, or any fine structure change, required a vote with a vote of 60% of homeowners present. I went through the meeting minutes for the last 10 years. Brenda had been adding and amending rules left and right. She doubled the fines 2 years ago. Not a single one of those changes had been put to a proper vote. She was just announcing them in her newsletter. She didn't have a quorum. She didn't have a vote. She didn't have anything. Our entire fine structure, the one she was using to try and put a lien on our house, was built on an illegal foundation. It was all invalid. I felt this surge of adrenaline. I printed everything. I organized it, highlighted it, and added a new glorious section to my binder. It was labeled Complete and Utter BS. I had her. The question was, how to use it. I could send it to a lawyer, and we'd end up in a long, drawn-out civil suit. But after what she'd done to Alex, that didn't feel like enough. I wanted to see her face when her little kingdom crumbled. I didn't know it then, but the opportunity for that was coming, and it was going to be far more dramatic than I could have ever imagined. The final act of this stupid play was about to begin. This brings us to the year of the fine. The 30-day deadline on the lien notice was approaching. We'd ignored it. We hadn't paid a dime. I had my binder, my secret weapon, and I was waiting for the right moment to deploy it. I figured she'd have to make the next move, file the actual lien, and then I'd countersue and expose everything. But I underestimated her instability. I underestimated just how unhinged she had become. The day it all came to a head was a Monday. It was a beautiful morning. The sun was shining, birds were chirping. It was offensively pleasant for the drama that was about to unfold. It was about 9:37 a.m. I was in my home office on a conference call. Alex, feeling a bit of her old self, decided to do some planting in the front yard. She was putting in some new rose bush along the walkway. She was out there in her element, dirt on her jeans, a peaceful smile on her face. I looked out the window and felt a pang of hope. Maybe things would be okay. Then, I saw Brenda's front door fly open. She marched across her lawn and onto ours like she was leading a charge. She was waving a piece of paper, the final lien notice, in her hand. My conference call was just wrapping up, so I muted myself but kept the line open, just in case. I started walking towards the front door, a sense of dread washing over me. I could hear their voices through the open window. Brenda was practically screeching. "This is your final notice, Alexandra. The 30 days are up. You are in breach of contract." Alex stood up slowly, wiping the dirt from her hands. She was calm, as always. "Brenda, we've told you. The fines are illegitimate, and we aren't paying them. Please get off our property." That was the wrong thing to say. Brenda's face, which was already a blotchy red, turned a shade of purple I had never seen on a human being. "Your property? Your property? This entire community is my responsibility. And you people, with your rules and your deck, you are ruining it. You will respect my authority." Alex just stood her ground. "The only authority I respect is the law. And you are breaking it. Now please leave." And then it happened. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Brenda, in a fit of pure, unadulterated rage, reached into her oversized purse. I was expecting her to pull out a phone to call the cops and lie about something. Dude, she pulled out a gun. A little silver snub-nosed revolver. My heart stopped. She wasn't aiming it. Not really. More just waving it in Alex's general direction. "You will pay this fine," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "I will not be ignored." I was already moving, my hand on my phone dialing 911, but Alex was something else. She didn't scream. She didn't flinch. Her entire posture changed. The relaxed gardener disappeared, and something else took her place. She straightened up, her shoulders squared. Her eyes went laser-focused on the weapon. All the serenity was gone, replaced by an ice-cold calm that was terrifying in its intensity. She took one small, deliberate step forward, planting her feet. Her voice dropped about an octave, and it cut through the morning air like a knife. "Brenda," she said, her tone devoid of any emotion except absolute command. "You have just committed multiple felonies. You are holding a deadly weapon, and you are threatening me with it. This is a terminal error in judgment." Brenda just stared, mouth agape, the gun trembling in her hand. She was so consumed by her rage, she didn't know what to do. Alex spoke again, slowly, clearly, as if talking to a child or a wild animal. "Brenda, put the weapon down. Now." While she was saying this, Alex casually brushed the side of her own jacket back, revealing the butt of a handgun holstered securely on her hip. "I am also armed," she stated, "not as a threat, but as a simple, unassailable fact. Unlike you, I am a licensed professional with extensive training. You have exactly one chance to put that gun on the ground before I am forced to neutralize you as a threat." The word neutralize hung in the air. The color drained from Brenda's face. The purple rage was replaced by stark, white terror. She finally understood. She wasn't threatening some suburban housewife. She had just pulled a gun on a lion. The little silver revolver clattered onto the grass. And just like that, at 9:41 a.m. on a sunny Monday morning, Queen Brenda's reign was over. The aftermath was surreal. Brenda was standing there, trembling, staring at the gun on the grass like it was a snake. Alex hadn't even drawn her weapon. She hadn't needed to. The sheer force of her presence, the complete switch from gentle gardener to stone-cold operator, had completely shattered Brenda's reality. It was a total psychological victory. By the time I ran out the front door, phone still pressed to my ear with the 911 dispatcher, it was already over. Several neighbors were out on their lawns now, drawn by Brenda's shouting. Tom from next door was standing there with his mouth wide open. The couple with the tricycle was on their porch. They had seen everything. When the first police car rolled up, lights on but no siren, it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. The officer who got out was a young guy. Looked like he'd been on the force for a few years. Let's call him Officer Miller. He surveyed the scene. Me on the phone, Alex standing calm and composed, and Brenda basically melting into a puddle of shock on my lawn next to her little gun. Wow, this officer is unbelievable. He just calmly assessed everything. Okay, he said. Can someone please tell me what's going on here? Brenda, seeing authority, immediately snapped into victim mode. Tears, crocodile tears, started streaming down her face. Officer, thank God. This woman, she threatened me. She pulled a gun on me. Karen. She must have been destined to have that name. It was an impressive performance, I'll give her that. But it lasted all of 5 seconds. Tom from next door called out, "That's a lie, officer. I saw the whole thing." Brenda pulled the gun on her. The other couple chimed in, "Yeah, we saw it too." She was screaming about fines. Officer Miller looked from them to Brenda, and you could see the whole narrative click into place in his head. He'd seen this kind of thing before. They had seen everything. When the first police car rolled up, lights on but no siren, it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. The officer who got out was a young guy, looked like he'd been on the force for a few years. Let's call him Officer Miller. He surveyed the scene. Me on the phone, Alex standing calm and composed, and Brenda basically melting into a puddle of shock on my lawn next to her little gun. Wow, this officer is unbelievable. He just calmly assessed everything. Okay, he said. Can someone please tell me what's going on here? Brenda, seeing authority, immediately snapped into victim mode. Tears, crocodile tears, started streaming down her face. Officer, thank God. This woman, she threatened me. She pulled a gun on me. Karen. She must have been destined to have that name. Officer, thank God. This woman, she threatened me. She pulled a gun on me. Karen. She must have been destined to have that name. It was an impressive performance, I'll give her that. But it lasted all of 5 seconds. Tom from next door called out, "That's a lie, officer. I saw the whole thing." Brenda pulled the gun on her. The other couple chimed in. "Yeah, we saw it too." She was screaming about fines. Officer Miller looked from them to Brenda, and you could see the whole narrative click into place in his head. He'd seen this kind of thing before. He professionally and safely secured Brenda's revolver. He took statements from everyone. Alex was incredible. She explained what happened in a calm, factual, and dispassionate tone, providing her concealed carry license and professional credentials. When Officer Miller saw her credentials, his eyes went a little wide. "Well, ma'am," he said with a new level of respect, "it sounds like you handled that perfectly." Brenda was placed in the back of the patrol car, still sobbing about how it was all a misunderstanding. As they drove away, a quiet cheer went up from a few of the houses down the street. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated satisfaction, but it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The criminal charges were just the start. Assault with a deadly weapon, brandishing, issuing threats, the list was long. Her husband, Gary, had to come and scrape together bail money. But for me, the real revenge was in the binder. The next day, I contacted a lawyer who specialized in HOA disputes. I walked into his office. put the 3-inch binder on his desk and said, "I think you'll find this interesting." He spent an hour poring over it. He kept muttering things like, "Unbelievable," and "This is a gold mine." The illegal bylaw changes, the unvoted upon fines, the misappropriation of funds, which we later discovered Gary was helping her with to pay for her shopping trips. It was a slam dunk. We filed a massive lawsuit against Brenda and the HOA itself on behalf of ourselves and a dozen other families who had finally found the courage to come forward. The whole thing collapsed like a house of cards. The HOA's insurance dropped them immediately due to the criminal case. The board members, minus poor old Carol, resigned in shame. Brenda and Gary had to sell their house to pay for their legal defense and the settlement. We didn't even want money. We just wanted them gone and for all the illegal fines to be returned to the homeowners. We got both. A new interim board was formed, led by Tom. The first thing they did was vote to abolish 90% of the stupid rules. The second thing they did was send us a thank you card and a gift certificate to a local nursery. It was a new era. The neighborhood felt lighter. People were talking to each other again. Kids were leaving their tricycles on the driveway. It was glorious. And my wife, my amazing, incredible wife, finally got her sanctuary back. She's out there right now, tending to her roses, completely at peace. And if you ask her about it, she just smiles and says, "Some weeds you just have to pull out by the root." Man, I have never been more in love.